2018 cum laude induction ceremony. I want to thank everybody in the audience for all that you have done to support and encourage our inductees and to get them to where they are this evening. You've all played a role in helping them to develop academically into the learners that they are today. To the parents who were here with them at every step of the journey with words of comfort and encouragement, to the siblings out there who helped to keep them grounded, to the friends who were there for them through thick and thin, and to the grandparents who've been bragging about them from the moment they could roll over in the crib. I want to express my sincere thanks and appreciation for all that you've done. This is one of my favorite events of the school year for a number of different reasons. First, it allows us to celebrate these students whose GPAs are within the top 10% of their class. Second, we get the chance to honor faculty members who are being inducted to cum laude and to gain inspiration through their remarks. Finally, this event is so special to me because our inductees have the opportunity to invite those adults who have had a positive impact on their learning journey to the event. This tradition of inviting past teachers, coaches, and administrators to be part of the celebration represents the best of Byram Hills. I was asked by this group of inductees to extend invitations to more faculty than in any class before them, which says a lot about them. So every morning I would come in and I would check my inbox for emails, and every morning I'd get 5 or 6 more invitations from one of our inductees saying, please, Mr. Walsh, I forgot about this teacher, please invite them for me. So they appreciate and recognize the contribution of their teachers, coaches, even going back to their days at Coleman Hill. And at this point, if you were invited by an inductee, I would like to have you stand up. So if you have been invited here tonight by one of our inductees, please stand up. You have all inspired them in some way during this incredible journey. And for us here tonight, this is an indication of the start of the next chapter of their academic lives. So there are so many fantastic teachers in the room with us tonight, as you've just seen, who have impacted our inductees. However, there's one who is not here, but whose presence is still felt each and every day. 16 of the 22 inductees had the good fortune of having Miss Delmonico as a teacher for Algebra 2 Trig A during their sophomore year. They were the last students she ever taught. While she was on leave, she would talk about doing everything she could just to be able to get back into the classroom to teach. She woke up every morning wanting nothing more than to help her students become more curious, resilient, persistent, and confident. That dream to teach inspired her and continues to define our memory of her. She was the consummate teacher. Her memory now lives in each of you, and it gives me comfort to know that you will hear her voice every time you try and fail, every time you refuse to give up, every time you put others' needs in front of your own, and every time you challenge yourself to be a better person, and every time you need perspective. She truly believed that the greatest compliment you could pay someone was that they were a great teacher. She lived to be that teacher for all of us. Thank you for keeping her memory alive. And right now I'm hearing her voice in my head saying, okay, shut up, stop talking about me and get on with the show. So thank you once again for being here with us tonight and to celebrate the tremendous accomplishments of these 22 students. So the criteria for selection into cum laude is fairly simple, but none of their journeys is simple at all. We line up all of the weighted GPAs of everyone in the class and invite the students who fall within the top 10% to join us here this evening. So fairly simple mathematics, but their paths are anything but simple. Behind each GPA, there are stories of perseverance, struggle, growth, and enlightenment. Late nights studying, weekends spent with schoolwork, extra time with teachers after school, and many other sacrifices that helped them get here. This induction is just a small acknowledgement of all of your hard work, dedication, and sacrifice. And on behalf of the faculty, staff, and students of Byron Hills High School, congratulations on your induction this evening. Before our cum laude address, I would like to thank our Board of Education, Dr. Lamia, Dr. Koltenecker, Dr. Rapp, Mr. Piali and the Jazz Choir, Nate Lucas, Ethan Resnick, Mr. Lopez, Mr. Hubbs, Ms. Sautner, and Ms. Duback, and our custodial staff for making this evening possible. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce my colleague and friend, Ms. Joy Reynolds, who will be giving our cum laude address this evening.
I'd like to start by saying thank you to members of the board, members of the administration, members of the faculty, members of the community, and members of cum laude, past and present. I'm honored to be here among you. When I was a little girl, my mother would come home from her work and tell us stories about her day. I looked forward to these stories more than the ones that I read in books. I wanted to hear about kids who rose above, kids who fell behind, kids who stood out for whatever reason. I wanted to hear about school and all of its heroes, big and small. I may have only been 10, but I had an office, or my mother did, filled with grade books, dictionaries, pens, and pencils. I had a color printer and a whole lot of imagination. I took attendance every day, and my fabricated pupils obediently raised their hands to let me know they were present, to ask and answer questions. For me, this was not child's play. This was a calling. I was inspired by so many women who came before me in my family. Together, we've taught English, Spanish, art, physical education, and special education at more than 7 districts in Westchester and Fairfield counties. And I can already tell which members of the next generation will continue our good work. One of them's right here, my 8-year-old daughter. One particular unit of study from my mother's 7th grade English class resonated with me, and that was The Miracle Worker, a biographical film about Helen Keller and Annie Sullivan. Young Helen Keller, blind and deaf since infancy due to a severe case of scarlet fever, is frustrated by her inability to communicate and subject to frequent and violent, uncontrollable outbursts as a result. At the suggestion of Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, Helen's parents contacted Perkins School for the Blind for assistance. Anne Sullivan, legally blind herself and only 20 years old at the time, was sent to the Keller estate to tutor Helen. Miss Sullivan broke down Helen's walls of silence and darkness through persistence, love, sheer stubbornness, and sign language. I was immensely inspired by Anne Sullivan's ingenuity in teaching Keller, and I was personally drawn to the beauty of sign language and the wonder of Braille. For my AP art class, I did my concentration on hands. The photographs and sketches on my wall captured the power and the beauty in the hands of mothers, fathers, infants, adults, athletes, artists, and anyone else who agreed to be my subject. Along with a friend, I enrolled in night classes at New York School for the Deaf, where I would go after volleyball practice or soccer practice. I was enthralled, and so it only made sense for me to apply to the Intensive Special Needs Program in the Lynch School of Education at Boston College. As part of my graduate work, I completed my practicum at Perkins School for the Blind, the very same place where Anne Sullivan and Helen Keller in 1886 were formally educated. I was later hired as a full-time teacher. This is where my avocation became my vocation. My colleagues and I were committed to exploring the endless ways students who are deafblind can connect with the world around them. we used a total communication approach, where any and every means of communication that works best for each student is taught and encouraged. This approach helps us meet each student at his or her own level of communicative ability and may include any or all of the following: sign and spoken language, written language, braille, pictures, objects, gestures, and other various low and high-tech augmentative communication systems. And here I met some of the most inspiring individuals to this day. However, I soon realized that my love of sign language was not limited to just that. It was actually language I loved. It was the art of communication, not the method. I value selecting my words carefully in order to be fully understood. I pride myself in using words to empower and embolden. Therefore, when I moved back to New York and was hired at Byram Hills as a special educator in 2001, I made a commitment to sharing everything I had learned about the power and intrigue of language, coupled with the resilience and the courage of students with special needs. I have read about the most unlikely success stories, and I've lived them too. And for that reason, I believe that special education is a special profession. Every day, I get to see and hear people defy the odds, prove something to themselves above all others, try something new, get back up again. These are the lessons I hope to instill in my loved ones, my students, and my friends. It goes without saying that Helen Keller was a genius. Many people will mistakenly refer to her as disabled, but I respectfully disagree. Helen Keller could not see nor could she hear, but she had a great mind, a strong mind. She was persistent, she was resilient, she was gracious, she was loyal. And the key to her success was both figurative and literal. In a dramatic struggle, Sullivan taught Keller the word water. She helped her make the connection between object and the letters by taking Keller out to the waterfront and placing Keller's hand under the spout, while Miss Sullivan moved the lever to flush cool water over Helen's hand. She spelled out the word water. Keller understood and repeated the word in Sullivan's hand, and by nightfall the same day, Helen Keller had learned 30 words. And in a bittersweet exchange and an utterly touching display of symbolic affection, Helen Keller gave Annie a key. In her hand, Helen spelled the word. T-E-A-C-H-E-R, teacher. Helen understood that Annie was the key to her escape from darkness and isolation. She finally understood the power and the beauty of effective communication. She finally understood what it meant to have a teacher and a friend. So my wish for all of you sitting behind me is that you've learned the value and the impact of your words, that you exercise your strong minds, that you forge ahead with persistence and resilience, and that you rise above to discover, build, and celebrate the unique abilities of all people.
Out of town with a people I administrative members of the Cum Laude Society. Mr. Matt Allen, Mr. Steve Borneman, Mr. David Bruskowitz, Ms. Kristen Budden, Mr. David Hubbs, Ms. Jane Carlin, Dr. Tim Kaltenecker, Ms. Joanna Lewitt, Mr. John Norton, Mrs. Barbara O'Connell, Ms. Joy Reynolds, Ms. Megan Salamone, Mr. Dwayne Smith, Ms. Melissa Stahl, Mr. Christopher Walsh, Ms. Marna Weiss, Mr. Michael Young, and of course, we always keep in our thoughts Michelle Delmonico, and a retiree who just can't stay away, Ms. Flaubert, who's here tonight. As the chapter president of the Byram Hills Cum Laude Society, I would like to congratulate the inductees and their families. At this time, it is a joy to share this wonderful occasion. I am required by the Cum Laude Society to present its history. The Cum Laude Society was started by Dr. Abram Harris, head of a private boys' school in Maryland in 1906. It was modeled on Phi Beta Kappa as the high school equivalent to recognize the scholastic achievement of seniors. Charters were only granted to schools of superior academic quality. Girls were admitted in the 1920s, and today there are over 350 chapters. Students who are selected must still demonstrate the original qualities of excellent scholarship, intellectual curiosity, stamina, a willingness to take a heavy workload, a desire to learn and to excel, and a consistency of performance. It should also be noted that our students have excelled in other areas as well, in school clubs and activities, community service, athletics, volunteer work, and leadership positions. You are to be commended. Exactly 1 year ago today, I stood here to welcome the cum laude members of the class of 2018. I spoke about the role of perspective in interpreting what is happening in our world. Tonight, I will offer you Perspective 2.0. Another tumultuous year has passed, filled with similar uncertainties in politics, weather upheavals, and divisions throughout our society. Our existence in the present makes it almost impossible to predict what will come next. My favorite historian is still Carl Becker, who taught at Cornell University. He was the first to emphasize the concept of historical relativism, or presentism, that the actual facts of historical events do not matter because everyone interprets them in the context of their own lives. Truth is a fluid creature, difficult to pin down. Interpretation is our best friend when we try to explain something, personal or monumental. 1968, 50 years ago, was a watershed in our history. In April, Martin Luther King Jr. was killed in Memphis, Tennessee. In June, Senator Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated moments after he had just won the Democratic primary in California. The deaths of these two men galvanized many Americans to protest. Civil rights expanded, more schools were integrated, and more African Americans entered the middle class. People were inspired by King and Kennedy. They entered politics, registered voters in the South, and continued to protest the Vietnam War. Hope and patriotism replaced negativity that year. Interpretation of history and relevance to the present continue to be important. In September of this year, historian Doris Kearns Goodwin published a book, Leadership in Turbulent Times. She wrote about the challenges that several presidents faced in their lives, so serious that success did not seem possible. Abraham Lincoln's father destroyed the books that he loved to read as a child. He struggled in school. Lyndon Johnson cried and suffered severe depression after losing his first Senate race. But time and perspective have given us a positive interpretation of these leaders. Last year, I also spoke about the impact of the 1967 hippies' Summer of Love on American culture 50 years later. You are all millennials, a generation born between 1982 and 2004. Demographers are still offering different start and end dates for this population cohort. William Strauss and Neil Howe coined this term in their two books, Generations, The History of America's Future, and Millennials Rising, the next generation. There is no way at this time to know the impact of this group on our history. So give it 50 years. What do we know about you? You are the largest group in our population, about 80 million. You are the children of the baby boomers, with only 74 million left. You have been described as special, sheltered, confident, team-oriented, conventional, pressured, and achieving. You know how to multitask. You are pragmatic and idealistic, hoping to make a better world. You have been called the Peter Pan generation because so many of you return home after college even though you have jobs. Close to 40% of you attend or will attend college. You are also digital natives, comfortable and competent with computers, video games, and the internet. You also have economic and cultural power. So, to bring you back to reality, what have you changed or destroyed in our current society? Breakfast cereals, mayonnaise, casual dining chains, diamonds, golf, home ownership, owning a car, designer handbags, banks. You are the generation of Uber, Instagram, and Venmo. Many of the older millennials have still not recovered economically from the Great Recession. So this is all wonderful information, perhaps relevant in 2018. But what will it mean in 20, 30, or 50 years? We don't know what impact the millennials will have on the future. I will not be doing this ceremony in 50 years, but I have great hope and optimism for you. Who knows what will endure and what will be forgotten? Do you know the story of the old man on his deathbed? His children approached him and said, "Dad, we are afraid to ask you, but perhaps the time has come. Do you want to be buried or cremated?" "Oh, I don't know," he says. "Surprise me." Okay, cum laude inductees, class of 2019, surprise us. So, it is perspective that should shape how you look at things. What might be important today might mean nothing years from now. Small events of today might have incredible impact on you years from now. Don't decide, don't panic, because if you respect perspective, you will be happier, more successful, and more self-fulfilled, and you will make better decisions. You have gotten an excellent foundation here at Byram Hills. Cherish your remaining days here. Appreciate the knowledge and the skills that you are learning. Appreciate your teachers and friends, and strive to make a difference and do good. Don't be complacent. Use the unexpected in your life and the occasional failure to make good choices. First, you're going to need an attitude. Try new things, don't judge in advance. Second, stay on track, get a good education. Learning for its own sake, an idea encouraged by Renaissance humanists and Enlightenment philosophers, should become part of your educational repertoire. Lastly, train your mind to think, regardless of what it's thinking about. You will discover that your education, knowledge, and critical mind will liberate you. Your future lies before you. Make the most of it. I remember seeing an old sundial when I was a child, and it was decorated with the words of the poet Robert Browning. How prophetic they have become. Please grow old with me. The best is yet to be. Would the students to be inducted please rise? The distinguished record you have made at Byron Hills High School has won for you membership in the Cum Laude Society. This society is a fellowship of scholars whose purpose is to recognize excellence in academic work. As you pursue your education, it is our hope that you will accept the honor of membership in this society as a responsibility to the ongoing search for greater understanding, knowledge, and peace on this earth. Samantha Abosese. Ellen Amico. Abigail Binder. Alan Chang. Zachary Kogan. Raul Gupta. Tyler Hart. Isabel Elan. Elise Canner. Emma Lucchino. David McDaniel. Sydney Nepo. Pietro Perez. Brent Perlman. Lindsay Perlman. Griffin Rockhauer. Jonah Schwan. Haley Siegel. Dylan Starker. Nicole Tissot. Zachary Tuzo. Spencer Weinhoff. Each year, we are pleased to invite into membership a faculty member who has demonstrated scholarship and dedication to scholarly ideals. This year, we are inducting 2 faculty members. They are worthy of membership as they represent the values of the society. He grew up in the Hudson Valley. He received a BA degree from SUNY Buffalo and an MS from Canisius College. He has been a teacher for 24 years. Before he came to Byron Hills in 2002, he taught in Venezuela and Nevada. He teaches accelerated pre-calculus, Introduction to Computer Science, AP Computer Science, and Pathways in Engineering. He is the advisor to the Tech Club, where he both motivates and is motivated by young, aspiring geniuses. He models being a lifelong learner. He sets high standards for himself and for his students. He is a member of the New York Master Teachers Program. He is also a recipient of the Presidential Award in both mathematics and science for New York State. He has trained and applied to our National Astronaut Program. He married his wife Joanna in 1994, and right after the wedding, they drove a rental truck across country to Las Vegas. They opened their wedding gifts at each rest stop. They have 2 children, Abigail and Keegan. He and his family have spent 5 summers in an RV touring the United States. They have been to Ireland, England, Spain, France, and Morocco. He and his wife are the first Byron Hills husband and wife team to be members of the Cum Laude Society. On behalf of the Cum Laude Society, I'm honored to offer membership to Christopher Miller. She grew up in Garden City, Long Island, and went to Garden City High School. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in History from Holy Cross College in 1992. She also competed as a springboard diver there. In 1996, she completed a Master of Arts degree in Social Studies Education from New York University. And in 2009, she received her Master's of Education in Administration and Supervision from the Future School Leaders Academy at Bank Street College. She worked in advertising before becoming a teacher. She taught social studies at Fox Lane High School from 1996 to 2009. She also coached diving while she was there. From 2006 to 2009, she was the department coordinator for social studies and business, grades 6 through 12. She launched the AP World History program there, and she co-taught U.S. history and government with a special education teacher. Her next stop was the Harrison Central School District. There she was the supervisor of secondary social studies and the high school English language arts department. She was also the high school assistant principal. She was responsible for 50 teachers, including social studies, special education, library, media specialists, and business teachers. She worked with teachers to improve student proficiency on the global history and U.S. history regions, as well as on advanced placement exams. And this is just a few things that she accomplished. She came to Byron Hills in 2012. She was the social studies department chairperson, grades 6 through 12. She supervises 17 teachers. She is most proud of our Global Scholars Program. This interdisciplinary course, developed with the English language and world languages chairpersons, teaches global awareness, critical thinking, and leadership skills needed in the 21st century. Her travel to China in 1999 opened her eyes to the need for this type of program. She also has traveled the Silk Road in 2001 with the China Institute. She has also written many publications, including a Kaplan AP World History, and she has made presentations at local and state social studies associations. She was honored as the Outstanding Social Studies Supervisor by the New York State Social Studies Supervisory Association in 2017-18. She is the consummate professional. She is a constant learner, which makes her an excellent and exciting teacher. As one of her social studies colleagues and friends, I I'm constantly impressed by her creativity and enthusiasm. She's married to Tom Murphy, and they have 2 children, a daughter, Duran, who is 11, and a son, Eamon, who is 12. On behalf of the Cum Laude Society, I am honored to offer membership to Jennifer Laude.
Thank you once again. Congratulations to our inductees.